Can the Green Bay Packers consider themselves in the same class with the Eagles, the Lions, and the Vikings? Well, Xavier McKinney doesn't think so, at least not until they beat one of those teams. And that makes this game the potential wake-up call the Green Bay Packers needed to go on a run.
You are Locked On Packers, your daily Green Bay Packers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Packers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Peter Bukowski, and I cover the Packers for The Leap, a newsletter I would love for you to subscribe to. Follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter, Locked On Packers. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to the podcast to iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you find podcasts, you will find Locked On Packers, the #1 Packers podcast on the internet, and the show for fans who know what happened, they want to know why and how. Thanks to everyone who makes Locked On Packers their first listen every day. We hope you like starting your day with us as much as we like starting our day with you. The Packers might have needed this loss to the Minnesota Vikings. And I don't want to be Pollyanna about it. I don't want to be overly naive about losing a game. But I'll be honest, I had some concerns after this team beat the Chiefs and Lions last year and no-showed against the Giants and Bucks. After this team at times felt like after the Lions game, both times, we're still as good as that team, even though they didn't win the game. It was a little nonchalant. And I was willing to write it off the first time after the Lions game if they beat the Lions a second time. They didn't. And this was their next opportunity, maybe their last opportunity to show, well, they're going to have a playoff game, to show that they can beat a great team. They failed. This is what Xavier McKinney had to say after the game to Fox 6's Tim Van Voorn. Our pal, Lily Zhao from Fox 6, joins us today, about if the Packers are currently on the level with those teams.
Are you on the level with those teams?
I want to say yeah, but right now the story is we haven't beat those teams, so I can't sit up here and say yeah we on the same level if we ain't beat them. So in order to be on the same level, you got to beat these teams. So like I said, we got to be more on our details. We got to play cleaner. We got to start faster, and that's just what it is. We got to stop saying, we want to fit like it's here now. We can't like it ain't no no, it's here now. It's just what it is. So we got to be in the moment. We got to be present where our feet are, and we got to do a better job. And like I said, me, myself, got to do a better job of making sure that we start faster, making sure that we play cleaner, and getting everybody, on the same page.
I love this. I love this because what he's saying is, yes, we think we're good, but we have to prove it. We have to play like we are as good as those teams. We have to play well enough to beat those teams. And so far, they haven't. They haven't. They've had every opportunity to, but they haven't. So I think this is an opportunity for them to say, look, a lot of the guys on this team last year were part of that team that went on a little mini run last year in the postseason. You beat Dallas. You give the 49ers everything they can handle. This Packers team is better than that one. And I think that 49ers team was better than any team in the NFC currently. We know that the Packers can go toe-to-toe with every single team in the NFC. Played a B- game and almost beat the Eagles. They played, I would say, a B+ game. Got banged up against the Lions, lose that game. The Vikings, they play a B- game. That's a 2-point game. They're one stop away from getting the ball back to go win the game. And I do think they would have driven down, given themselves a chance to make a kick to win it. Loved Matt LaFleur going for it. There was some things to like here. This has to be an opportunity for them to circle the wagons. To go, look, we are only as good as we think we are if we can play consistently to our abilities. And that is where this can be the best thing that happened to this team. Now, they're going to have to probably go to Philly in week 1 of the postseason, wild card weekend. Last time they did that, 2010, we remember how that ended. This team went healthy. We don't know if Jair Alexander is going to be back. Still questions about what's going on there. We're going to talk to Lily Zhao about that. We don't know what Christian Watson's status is. We don't know what Evan Williams' status is. My expectations is, at least in the case of Evan Williams, he will not be back until the postseason. Quay Walker, we don't have any updates on where Quay Walker is at this point. But getting Evan Williams back would be huge for this defense because then you get to keep Bullard in the nickel, which I think is his best spot. And I do think that disrupted the whole defense, that he's got to move mid-game after being in the slot all week. Coming back from injury. And he's a rookie. Let's not forget, he's a rookie. This team knows, they know they are capable of beating anybody. And what I don't want is for that belief or for them to think that that belief is enough. And I don't really think that they do, but there is a human nature part of it. Like, well, we don't necessarily have to, not that they don't have to go all out, but that you don't have to be as locked in on the details. I mean, I mentioned this in the postgame show. For Tom Brady to say this intermediate passing game is not a detailed, he kept calling it this is not a detailed intermediate passing game. I was like, oh my God. Like, that is an indictment of your players and your coaches if you can't have a detail. If Tom Brady is saying you don't have a detailed intermediate passing game. Matt LaFleur admitted they were not ready for the amount of man coverage that Brian Flores played in this game, even though I mentioned on Twitter, I heard podcasts mention, I saw Vikings media people mention that they've been playing more man coverage lately and that they might play even more in this game because that's going to be something they're going to need to do in the postseason in all likelihood. The Packers are going to have to find answers here. They can. This is an opportunity for them to come together as a group, to keep and hold each other accountable. And say, if we want to get to where we know we are capable of getting to, that belief, that knowledge that we are good enough is not enough. You have to put it on the field. You have to put it on tape. Your tape is your resume. I think Evan Williams said that. And so when you have a leader of your football team, Xavier McKinney, saying, look, I want us to think that we're as good as those teams. I want to believe that, but we haven't showed we can beat those teams. That humility can be motivating. And again, I don't want to be naive about this. But I think having this moment and understanding, look, let's just carefree, go in, nothing to lose, and try and win 3 games on the road in a row. Mike Sando in The Athletic had a piece. He pulled executives. Who do you think can play spoiler? Who do you think can come out of the NFC? And there was an NFL executive that said, I trust that coach and that quarterback, meaning Matt LaFleur and Jordan Love, to go in and beat anybody anywhere. Cool. So do I. But they got to go do it. Last year, they proved they could. This year, they have yet to prove that they can. So they're going to have an opportunity. Can they get motivated enough? Can they get focused enough? Can they play disciplined enough to let their talent shine through? Because I think these teams, as they are currently constructed, because Detroit is not getting Aiden Hutchinson back, and some of the other players that are on IR are not coming back for the playoffs, the best version of this Packers team with Evan Williams, we'll see about, even without Jair Alexander, frankly, with Evan Williams and Christian Watson, you get those 2 guys back, this Packers team can beat anybody in the NFL. No doubt. No doubt. But some doubt, right? Because they haven't yet. And that's what's out in front of them. All right, Lily Zhao joins us next on Locked On Packers. Would an app that would help you find subscriptions you forgot about or that you were paying for twice be useful to you? It would be useful to me, because that's happened to me. I've realized, oh no, I'm still paying for that thing that I don't use anymore or haven't used since 2014. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps you find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even the goals you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium features. For me, the most useful feature is the subscription tracker because I am not good about being on top of that stuff. There's a little like $199 charge here, $499 charge there. I gotta be better about it. Rocket Money can help. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/locked-on today. That's rocketmoney.com/locked-on. rocketmoney.com/locked-on. Well, it didn't go as anyone, at least Cheesehead Nation adjacent, wanted it to go on Sunday, but we have our pal Lily Zhao from Fox 6 here this week to help us sort out the wreckage from a Packers-Vikings game. Lily, how you doing?
Peter, I can't lie. That was a tough watch, but we'll get into it. But I will say the holiday cheer, the holiday spirit going into the new year, that hasn't dampened my spirit whatsoever. So that's good. I'll take the glass half full approach. So I am doing well. So how you doing?
I'm good. You have to hope if you're a Packers fan, that the Packers are doing the same, that they're going, hey, look, new year, new us, right? So that's where they're going to have to get through this. As you sort through this now, you know, we're about a day removed as we record this from the game itself. When you look back, what was it that stands out to you, good or bad, about what happened on Sunday?
I think I just was disappointed at how unprepared they looked, especially on offense.
Yeah.
That was disappointing. You know, the defense missing a lot of key guys in the secondary. No Jair, no Evan Williams. You're down Quay Walker. They certainly held their own as much as they could back there with shuffling the guys and, you know, putting guys in different spots. So they did their job. Special teams unit did their job. The offense did not do theirs. And that really was the story of the game. They kind of found their gear when it was too late. And that was the story of the game the first time they played the Vikings. And just the fact that they looked so unprepared, that was kind of shocking. And I know Matt LaFleur and company wanted to use this game as a gauge to say, we can compete with the NFC's best, but when all was said and done, they couldn't.
Yeah, and you know, we talked about this to open the show, and we used the clip from your great colleague Tim Van Born about the conversation that he had with Xavier McKinney after the game about, you know, we heard after the Lions game, the first Lions game, Elton Jenkins said, you know, the better team didn't win, the team that executed better won. And we kind of got the same answer after the Lions game. And now 0-5 against teams seated ahead of them in the NFC. I was shocked, heartened, but shocked at the candor from Xavier McKinney to say, look, we think we're as good as those teams, but until we beat them, we don't get to say that we are. And I feel like if you're going to take a positive out of this, if you're the Packers, it has to be, look, we think we're great. We got to prove it. And they haven't yet.
Exactly. And that's why I loved his answer instead of saying, oh yeah, we're there, which I do believe these guys believe that. And that's not saying that they don't believe that, but
they should believe that, by the way.
You should believe that, right? You made the playoffs. You're a double-digit win team. You have to believe it. And this team is talented. It's a really good team. But I do like the fact that you mentioned he was very candid, saying, we want to get there, but we're not there yet. But we believe we can be. But now, like you said, it's time to prove it. And if you don't prove it in January, it's going to be a quick run. So they have to figure out a way to get over that hump in January. I mean, you talk about close losses to the best teams in the NFC. They're so close to doing it. But for some reason, just taking the Viking series at heart, they just were hurting themselves. And in both games, it was self-inflicted wounds, and they come back too late. And so you cannot have that mistake happen in January, otherwise your season's over. So they have to find a way to go get over that hump, and we'll see if they can.
Is it crazy? Am I being too glass half full to believe that this could end up being the thing that helps galvanize this team? Because there would have been some level of concern from me that this team would have been feeling itself a little bit too much. If, let's say, they get that stop, they come down and they win, that the slow starts they would be hand waved because, well, we won. Whereas now this team has to come together. They have to find a way to fix some of this stuff that sometimes winning can paper over. Am I being too naive in thinking that could happen?
I don't think so. And, obviously had they won, had they gotten the stop and the offense had come back and potentially Packers kick a game-winning field goal, maybe we're talking about, this is a team that had heart, and they certainly do, and they came back and won this thing and everything's okay. But you're right. Maybe this is the wake-up call they need before the postseason to say, again, we are a good team, but we're not a great team just yet. And this is the wake-up call we need to say, okay, let's lock in. Let's be super focused. Let's get that fast start in the postseason. Because at this point in time, they're going to Philly, and that's not a tough assignment to play out there whatsoever. And so maybe this is the wake-up call they needed to kick themselves into high gear in January.
They also need to get healthy. And I think before you even get to the conversations about what to do against Chicago this week, it seemed obvious, the impact on the offense that Christian Watson made. It seemed obvious, the impact on the offense, not having Jair Alexander, Quay Walker, Evan Williams, the spine of your defense out there made. Would it be too simplistic for this team, for fans to believe, hey, look, when this team is healthy, like this was a 2-point game in Minnesota. It was a 2-point game the first time. It was a 3-point game in Detroit. Like if this team is healthy, they're going to be fine.
I don't think so. And that's kind of what is, it stinks, right? It's obviously not every team's going to be healthy every single time you play them, or vice versa. You're not going to be healthy every single time you play a good team.
Detroit has won anyway, by the way. Yeah. So like we can't just say, well, injuries. No, every team has had injuries.
Yes, exactly. And we've seen Detroit overcome them in a big way, right? But you're right. In terms of Christian Watson, I don't think his value can be understated whatsoever. I mean, we've seen this team overcome his absence on offense, but they weren't playing a team like the Vikings when they've done it.
Yeah.
And his importance to this team in terms of stretching the field, in terms of getting big plays, in terms of even just being a decoy out there.
Yeah, the gravity he creates.
Correct. It was sorely missed because at one point in time, I think Jordan Love's longest pass in the game was 8 yards. And you can't win like that when you're playing a team like the Vikings. And so his absence certainly was felt again with the offense because, oh man, they've struggled until the last couple minutes there.
The fast start problem. Like if they had an answer for it, they would have given it to us already. If I had an answer for it, I'd be getting paid a lot of money by the Packers to help them fix it. But I was thinking about this. You go back to some of the biggest games that the Packers have lost in the Matt LaFleur era, 2019 NFC Championship game. The offense cannot get going. The 2020 NFC Championship game, the offense cannot get going. The 2021, they have the fumble in the second drive after they go down and score. That was a huge play in that game. Are we starting to worry about Matt LaFleur teams going, hey, look, in these big games, whether it's they come out tight, they don't come out prepared. Like I'm starting to wonder about this, Lily, in ways that I have not before, about things that they need to do differently to prepare for some of these games.
Right. I would say this was a one-off or maybe a two-off. We can say, okay, it was a bad day at the office. They'll be fine. But it is kind of becoming a trend, which is worrying, right? You look at the games where I think they score on their opening drive, and you kind of get that sense of, okay, they're prepared, they've scored, they'll be fine. I think on the opening drive when Josh Jacobs fumbled the football, I was thinking, this is going to be one of those days, isn't it? And it ended up being that. And I think for this team, it's just if they cannot get ahead, if they cannot score quickly enough to put their team ahead, it's hard for them to come back and fully win. And yes, they've certainly done it before, but probably against lesser opponents. But you're right. There is a troubling sense of in big moments, in big games, this team just has not come out and played like they've been prepared to play, or it's just they're tight and they're just, nervous or whatever it is. But they have to find a way to get over that hump. Otherwise, they could be leaving after the wild card round. But they have to get out to a fast start. And if they can't do that, it seems that they can't win. So what's the balance there? How do you change your preparation? How do you get your guys more mentally prepared? Those are the questions that have to be answered this week.
Still more to come with Lily Zhao next on Locked On Packers. And so it feels like it's a double-edged sword in that if you take the ball first, you give yourself a chance to go down and score. And when they don't, that it really seems to affect them early on in the games. That whether it's Matt LaFleur goes on tilt a little bit, like in this game, it felt like they fumbled and the next drive, it's pass. And deep passes, not anything easy, simple, let's get into rhythm like it was on the first drive. And so I don't know how you walk that line, because it's like, well, I don't want to kick it off because our defense is not the strength of our team. It's the offense. And so let's give them a chance. It's not an easy question to answer for Matt LaFleur. And so I don't want to pretend like it is. And I think it's important, Lily, like the Seahawks game in 2019, they came out and started fast in that game. They were up 21-3, I believe, in that game. We can't just forget the big games where they did come out fast, but that's the point is when you come out fast, you're going to be able to give yourself a good chance to win. And they just haven't been doing that. That leads me to this part of this. They need to have a little bit of something going into the postseason, I think. And that leads me to say, I think they should play their guys in week 18, at least to start the game. Just see if you can get out and get something going. But there is this other side of me that's like, well, yeah, but then what if they don't? Like, what if they do come out a little bit flat, and then that gets in your head again? Like, I'm tying myself in knots trying to put this all together. Lily, help me.
Well, I think what we can all do is just say, let's play these guys and let's hope they play well, right?
Yeah.
I mean, again, this is an opponent. The Bears defense has struggled mightily. And again, you don't want to be the team that gives the Bears a shot to go into the offseason with, hey, we played pretty well against the Packers and we're going to get a high draft pick, et cetera, et cetera. And so you hope that when you play these guys, your starters in week 18 at home, last regular season game, last game at Lambeau this season, that they're going to come out and play prepared and take that momentum going into the offseason. But you're right, there is that thought of, oh no, maybe it could go wrong if we play them. But I think at this point in time, whether it goes right or wrong, you got to play your starters in week 18. It is what it is at this point. They have to get just a better feel going into the postseason and not have that Vikings game kind of be the last taste in their mouth before a one and done scenario.
I think if you're a player, you want to play. You want to feel that way. Now, I think like someone like Evan Williams dealing with an injury, you're not going to push him back. Maybe Christian Watson, who's dealing with an injury, you're not going to push him back. I don't know what's going on with Jair Alexander. Maybe we need to talk about that at some point. But this is not an easy set of decisions, I think, here for Matt LaFleur. Like, I think if guys are healthy, I would want them to play. So that becomes a difficult walking that line. Let's talk about Jair Alexander, because I know you're not going to have any answers that Matt LaFleur has not provided. Unless you do, but in which case, please share.
I wish.
But it does seem like this is a weird situation. We've heard that there wasn't a setback, but it seems like, given the practice reports, that there was. He practiced in full twice for 2 games and did not play. What is your sense? What is your feeling of what we're witnessing here in Green Bay? And I threw this out there the other day, Lily. I wonder if we've seen the last snap of Jair Alexander's career in Green Bay. What is your sense on what we're seeing right now?
Right. It's a tough situation, right? We've seen the ebbs and flows of Jair Alexander in the Packers organization. And luckily, after he had a rough go at it, him and Matt LaFleur, kind of sat down and they were fine and they hashed things out. And that was good to see. It was good to see that relationship grow, head coach and player. But now it is an interesting scenario where he's missed 6 games. I know that PCL on your knee, it's never okay, we know you injured this part of your knee. You're going to be back at this point in time. Everyone's body is different. Every injury is different. So we don't really know the timeline there in a return. But again, it is a little bit confusing when he is practicing in full for quite a while, but then doesn't play. And then you're not putting him on IR. I think if there was a point in time where you put him on IR, you're thinking, okay, it is serious. We'll rest him for at least a month and go from there. But the fact that he's not on IR, they don't have a spot to fill, that does bring up questions. And so I do kind of wonder what is going on. And you're right. Will this be the last time we ever see Jair in green and gold? I hope not. I really hope that's not the case. And I hope that when it comes playoff time, we do see him take the field. But again, that will be dependent on how he does practice. So it is a very interesting situation. I wish I had more answers. I wish I had more clarity on the situation. But I have to imagine the Packers are doing the best they can to make sure that Jair does play. And I know he's most likely very itching to get back out in the field and help his teammates. And so it's a very tricky situation. And I'm wondering if we will get clarity on that in the next week or so.
I'm not going to hold my breath, to be honest. And it's kind of like the Jordan Love turnover thing that we joked about for a long time, Lily. Like, Matt LaFleur does not want to answer it. He does not want to talk about it. He does not want to give any additional information. And you know, it seems like everyone has just decided, okay, this is we're getting stonewalled and we're going to leave it at that. In addition to the fast start part of this, is there anything else you'd like to see the Packers try and accomplish in this last game against the Bears? Whether it's, you know, something defensively that they want to put together, whether it's giving Emmanuel Wilson more touches, just like I'm just kind of leaving it open-ended here because they do have the opportunity to play around a little bit and see, you know, what they can do here. What is something that you'd like to see, or that you think they would benefit from seeing a little bit more of in this last game?
I would say unleash the beasts on Caleb Williams, if Caleb does play, of course. You know, the pass rush could not get home against Sam Darnold. They were this close multiple times.
Yeah. And
you can't be this close against a Sam Darnold. And so I'd say unleash the
Isn't that crazy to say? But in the year 2024, like that is a thing. Sam Darnold playing electric football this year. It's crazy.
Couldn't be touched outside of once, and made the Packers pay. So I would say try to pressure a quarterback. Just try to get home, get some sacks, feel good about yourselves going into the postseason. You know, whether it's Philly or not, I mean, Jalen Hurts will be a tough quarterback to take down. So get your reps in up front. I think, hey, why not get Luke Musgrave some touches? Get him back.
That's a good one.
You know, it was nice to see him get a catch against Minnesota. So I'd say get him back in the swing of things and, you know, see Emmanuel Wilson and Chris Brooks, get those guys some more touches. You want to keep Josh Jacobs fresh. So that's probably what I would want to see against Chicago.
Be up 28-3 at halftime. Malik Willis play the second half. Like that's if we're really just like waving a magic wand, right? Like that's what you want to see. But it doesn't always work like that, Lily, as we know. But we will have you. We don't have to wave any magic wand. We will see you this time next week. Talk about the Bears game. Look forward to what is probably going to be a game in Philadelphia, which is not going to be a cakewalk by any means. But we'll see. I mean, who knows what the situation is with Jalen Hurts? Like head injuries, concussions, nothing to play with. So we'll see. Lily, thank you. Happy New Year. We'll talk soon.
Happy New Year. Thanks, Peter.
All right. Thanks to Lily for joining the show today. Always great to talk with her. Back tomorrow with more as we get you set for Packers Bears Week 18. Still working through the process of what the Packers are going to do here. It seems like guys are going to play, and I think that's the right thing to do. I think Lily is spot on with that whole conversation. I would like to see them play at least a half. Come out, go up 21-0 on this team, 21-7, whatever, and let Malik Willis be your human victory cigar. And by the way, get to over 11.5. That's just one for me personally. I would like to see that. So that's the opportunity that they have in front of them. We got our crossover Thursday coming. Pretty normal week for us because, you know, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, those are fake holidays. You're going to be watching football anyway. Let's be honest. Plenty to watch. So follow me on all the social medias, Blue Sky, Twitter, Instagram. Same thing with the podcast. Add TikTok because the podcast is on TikTok, but I'm not. And on YouTube. We're there. We're there every day with these shows. If you want to watch us or just have us on in the background, but you like to have it on your computer. And then we're, of course, live. We're going to be live after the game on Sunday, which is going to be a 12 p.m. Lambeau start time. We now know. So middle of the afternoon, come hang out with us. Grab an old fashioned, grab a beer, grab a soda, whatever you want. Water, whatever you want. We'll be there to hang out with so you can stay locked on Packers.